I've always felt different. I've always seen things, but when I tried to express them as a child, I was always told to ignore it.
There were people that I didn't know that came to me and said, I have this message that I keep getting that I have to deliver to you.
All of a sudden, out of the shadows, a homeless man just jumped right in front of me. And he said, I'm a soul just like you.
I love it.
I wanted to understand the universe and who and what we are and what are we doing here.
We're all part of this amazing soul wave tapping into each other.
This was a major life changer.
You are a light. You have helped me a ton. Thank you.
You've given me the courage to live more from my soul.
Millions of people are awakening.
So wake up with Michele Meiche, the place to hear the best-selling authors and experts in the fields of cutting-edge self-help, personal growth, metaphysics, and spirituality. The soul path of awakening.
Understand what living awake is.
Welcome. I see people coming in the chat, Sacred Space of Empowerment Room. Hello, everyone. Come in, get cozy, get comfy, get your tea. I just got my jasmine tea with a little honey and almond coconut mixture, jasmine tea latte. So I'm ready to go, gang. All right, if you're new here, welcome. I'm Michele. This is Awakenings with Michele Meiche. This is a place where we do some light dives and deep dives into all things esoteric, metaphysical, and we really focus on the spirituality, the esoteric, the occult, and the Great Awakening. Been doing this for a while. Got people in the house that have been here for a while. Second half of the podcast, the broadcast, the live, whatever you want to call it, is Martha Blessing. What a great name for what she does. She's the author of Healing and Unlimited, The Secret to Breaking Free from Chronic Illness. So looking forward to that. Perfect time for that. Oh, Healed and Unlimited. Okay. Healed. Not healing, healed and unlimited. I love that. All right, lots to share, gang. Also, for these awakening dialogues that I've been having here, and I have some coming up on, there's some already posted on YouTube, Soul Insights. I think a couple of them, Soul Insights and Tarot, but Awakenings podcast, Awakenings with Michele Meiche podcast, I think that's what it is, on YouTube. If you have any guest or topic suggestions that you want to have a deep dive in, or something that you want to share as well, the forum is open. That was one of my dreams, my goals, actually in the early days of Awakenings podcast, when we were early days on Blog Talk Radio and early days on Cosmic Dimensions. We did a lot of those panels, so very open. So connecting into the energy right now, it's so interesting, and I invite you all to do this. Really start looking for the signs of awakening, the various awakenings that are happening in different sectors, of course, political. And what happens in awakenings? When you are awakening, there is disruption. There has to be disruption. There's a pattern interrupt. And you're really seeing that right now, that how people don't like that. They want change. Everybody wants change. Everyone cries for change, whether individually in their, their relationships, in their job, their career. But change, intrinsic change, deep change requires a level of confrontation. And I don't mean bullying confrontation. You have to look. You have to be willing to be aware. And once we're aware of something, you can't go back. You can fool yourself, but it takes a lot of addictive distractions, shopping a lot, eating a lot, this and that. It can be done. It can be done. You can see something. You can have a epiphany, an awakening. You can have an aha. But to go back, you can't. Years ago, someone that I knew, actually a pretty close compadre, as we say, friend, spent a lot of time with me and started awakening. And I was, of course, big on my journey of healing, deep healing, and really looking at patterns, and was learning a lot about myself. I think at that time, the guides, or just right after that, the spiritual hierarchy came through to me and started visiting me. And that opened a whole new door. But what I noticed with this person is they had a lot of the right kind of books, and they did some classes and workshops with me. We went, did some explorations. And then they just kind of stopped and they said, I can't do this. It's too much change. And I went, oh, I go, you're not in a good spot. And they're like, what? And I go, ooh, this is a tough one you're going to do. I go, you either got to not get on the path or the journey. And actually I ended up dating this person for a while. We almost got married, truth be told, disclosure here. But they couldn't, they were like, I can't do that. And they then got kind of caught up in some very disruptive to themselves behavior. But I told this person, I said, it's better to not awaken or start the path than start it and get in the middle, because and not go forward, not follow through on what's coming up for you. I know, because you can't go back. And this person told me, I know, I can't go back. And I go, well, then you're stuck in this middle. And they said, I know, it's kind of painful. And I'm like, well, I know it's painful. I go, you gotta go all the way, whatever that is for you. You got to follow your unfolding, And they said, no, I'm not going to do it. And I said, wow. And they said, well, millions of people don't do it. Millions of people are in my position. And I thought, yeah, there it is. And that's very telling. And this person, beautiful being, great heart. But what they did have to get, and I don't think they're doing this anymore, but they did have to get in some destructive behavior, some addiction stuff, substance addiction stuff. And I could see why. So yeah, once we become aware, because change, 80%, maybe even more, statistically it said 80%, I think it's more like 85 or 90, but let's say 80% of change is awareness. And then the rest is what you need to do, or the effort, or not do, or whatever it is. But you have to become aware. That's why repatterning is so powerful. And looking at the shadow, not only what we haven't healed, but what we haven't integrated. What do you really want to do? And that's going to be coming up in the face of a lot of people, especially this year. I would say especially March on for many people. And then for sure, I would say August, September, where people are really going to have to be facing themselves. And you know what? The thing is it's not anything outside you that's doing this. It's not the God outside of you. It's the I am that I am within you. It is the God within you. It is your higher self. It's you, your true you, that wants more, wants to express more, wants to do more, wants to learn more, wants to be more, wants to take up more space in the world. And so, but that can be very scary to constructed egos or structures or systems. And what I want to remind people, even if things, like a cold or a flu or any kind of illness, it's interesting because we're going to be talking about chronic illness, things get worse before they get better. It's that little, the pimple, the boil, the pimple festers until it's popped or it goes on its own, until the scab happens. And then when there's scabbing, there's scar tissue, you got to work through the scar tissue. So healing in a way is forever. It simply means balance or wholeness. But it's better to start that. And so you're seeing these disruptive patterns, and we're seeing it in institutions right now. And if you go back to my earlier podcast, I always say this, go back. I said this was going to start happening, that people were really going to have to be looking, deep within. And that when Pluto got into Aquarius, and then I said, and especially when we have Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries, that's where you're going to see the big change. That's the revolution within and without. And I call it the quiet revolution, because it's people just walking away from the fair, walking into the new playground, walking away. It's not going to be a lot of fanfare. Yeah, that'll be happening too, but that's not where the real change is. The real change is in the deciding, oh, I don't need an Apple new update every phone every year. I don't need to wait in line on Black Friday or what is it, Thursday, Black Friday, whatever it is, after Thanksgiving. I don't have to wait in line to buy the television that's only going to be reduced $20 when I can get it cheaper online or somewhere. I don't have to wait I don't have to push people to get those, Nike tennis shoes or whatever, or go to an auction to buy, Nike trainers, to be cool. You know what I mean? I was listening earlier, I think it was Army Hammer's podcast, and I was going to try to play it, but it is so low, and I'm also but I'll give you the gist of it. I was going to try. And again, I look for awakenings. That's my news. Yes, I know everything that's going on. I know what's vision. I know what's coming up with the monetary. I know all the big changes and earthquakes and all this. But I'm not, I kind of keep my focus beyond that, even though I dip into that. But he said something. He said, when people start really seeing something, and again, he used the word awakening, and you're hearing this word over and over. I can't tell you, since I started this podcast, hardly anybody used this word. The last couple of years, everybody's talking about awakening, awakening, awakening. And he said, which was so interesting, he said, how did he put it? Something to the effect of, when you really start realizing what matters, you make different choices. And he said there's a lot of people now awakening, and he used that. I love that. He goes, there's a lot of people awakening, and they're not taking certain things anymore, and they're seeing, and they're, and he was talking about it also relative to the government. And he said, when you really start awakening, he goes, you don't need anything. And that's true, gang. That is true. You have basic needs, but the thing is, when you do start awakening, you kind of see that a lot of filler you don't need in your life. The vacuous conversation, the endless stuff and junk, and the bigger the better. That stuff starts falling away. What you start connecting to, and this is why I really focus on soul awakening. There's a lot of different awakenings. There's a spiritual awakening. Well, the spiritual awakening has been going on for many, many years. The soul awakening has started around the harmonic convergence. And we know spiritual awakening, it's usually tied into religion, similar to ascension. But metaphysically, ascension simply means rising above the extremes of duality. It's rising into the frequency of the higher self. So you ascend, and we're in the ascension. We started the descension thousands of years ago on this earth plane. We descended into matter to understand what matters to us. That's an esoteric principle. So that descension from the spirit realm, from out of the oneness, out of the cosmic cloud, if you want, out of God consciousness, there's many ways to look at it. The fall from grace. Okay, what does that mean metaphysically? I studied the metaphysical Bible, so it's very different. So the fall from grace means spirit, right? If you've ever had an experience of grace, it's simply being uplifted. You feel spiritual energy, psychic energy, healing. It's like it's Reiki. It's getting a dose. So we came into that. We individuated out. We separated out, not separation, but separated out, so that you might hear my friend's doggy in the background. So we descend into matter. The principle of the atom and Eve, the beginning, electrical magnetic energy. Later we became to know it as masculine, feminine, the creative principle. You need the duality, those polarities. Just like when you charge a battery, you need the polarity of the negative and the positive to make the charge. But to manifest into form, you have to fall, you have to descend into matter. What that means is you have to tone your vibrational frequency down to become more of a solid. Even though we're not completely solid, we're slower moving, right? So that's a lot of what this earth plane is about, is this descension. But now what's happening, which is very interesting, the game is to ascend. And so what that makes us is in our electromagnetic proportions is a bit more magnetic. We're becoming more magnetic. So that's going to be an interesting game for thousands of years ago, is this whole idea of ascension with our earth knowledge, what we know and what we perceive about manifesting and emotions, energy and motion, ups, downs, happy, sad. The ascension is coming out of the extremes of that to create that heaven on earth, a new playground, a new way of playing that integrates much more of the soul, and then completely the soul. This earth plane becomes more of the soul playground. So it's a different game, and it's going to require different skills or skill sets. And one of them is the ability to explore, to get curious again, to not lose that, to not get hardened into a shell of a previous self, to understand that the self morphs. Your soul doesn't morph. It takes on different roles or ways of expressing, but you are how you are, how you're formatted. You are that complete question and answer within you. You are everything within you, the totality within you. So when people start awakening, and there's a reason that there's going to be much more automation, AI. We're living Lemurian times to some degree. The Lemurian energy and Atlantean energy, and those two need to be fused instead of cut off, segregated like they were. So there's a reason, it's like trying to, and they've tried to do this. It's like trying to put pheromones in a bottle. It's trying to put charisma or that je ne sais quoi, that something in a bottle. What makes you uniquely you? And that's what some people are trying to do with, obviously, AI, which I love all of that. It's funny, one of my clients yesterday said, "Oh my God, Michelle, you're a bit techie, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, I used to be called the techie mystic, especially when I was doing speaking engagements and stuff." So I just want to remind everyone, our awakening dialogue or conversation will be at about a half hour for those new that are coming in, and our guests will be on. So the thing is that what people aren't realizing, that je ne sais quoi, that something that you can't quite put your finger on, the uniqueness of spirit, cannot be programmed. So this fear of, the super intelligent AI, what is it, AGI, like this Terminator, it's for those that aren't connected into the quantum field of infinite. You could get close, but then there's always going to be that one invention, that aha, that insight, that flash, that something that cannot be programmed. It cannot be programmable. And in many ways, that's what we're all being guided to. Now, what I find very interesting, because I didn't see this when I started talking about awakenings, there was no polarity, which I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about, because awakening is such an unfolding. There is no polarity, really, because it's a process. You could say, I suppose, sleep. But what got created on the earth plane? Woke. And then I thought, damn, the people, the consciousness of this dimension just cannot have a unified field of something. They have to politicize it and polarize it. I don't know if you want to say bring the dualism. They have to. They just cannot. It's the mainstream world, the mainstream consciousness constantly seeks out what is not or what is opposite. So what did we have? Woke. And what was woke or is woke? Because people do discern between woke and awakening, right? And it's true, you're awake, but again, you're awake. I always say keep awake, but I don't mean it as a static. I mean it's an unfolding. It's a verb. So what was woke? Prefab. You have to prescription, surface reality, surface identity. Let's distract people by focusing on the surface. And I hate to say it, whether it's identity politics or sexual identity, all of that is okay. That's inconsequential. That comes and goes. That's fluid. But it masks people from diving deeper and connecting into the soul. And of course, this is the soul awakening. When you awaken and you are a soul, you know, a lot gets easier and you're not as easily manipulated because you have this guidance system. You're connecting into your higher self. Your beep beep. This doesn't. I don't care who says what. If it's the government or this celebrity or this reality star or this basketball star, football. I don't care. Something doesn't feel right. That's not for me. I always use fashion as an example. It's like fashion. It's like you go in a boutique and the person's trying to tell you, "Oh, that looks good on you," and you know it's not your style, even if it looks good on you. That who cares? That's what people have been sold. It looks good on you. It makes you look this way. Who cares? I don't like that style. That's not my vibe. That's not my style. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting that this whole woke narrative took off, which is really the antithesis of the soul, of spirit, spirituality, spiritual essence. Because you get this prescription, you're not allowed to look within. You're told this is cool, this is the way to vote. This is you have to use these pronouns, do this, do that. No, you can't have your own opinion or you get censored. And people are still getting censored, not just here in the United States, but unfortunately a lot in Britain, especially comedians, where people tweeting certain things or Xing, whatever you want to call it, posting certain things. So I kind of watch this and I go, okay, I see what's going on. We're in the process. It's a little scary, it's jarring, but that shadow material has to come up. And why is this? Shadow material, again, is not just what you think is negative or what you think, like, oh, I'm angry inside, I don't realize it, so I'm always encountering angry people or people get angry at me. That's very basic. That's very kind of newbie, that, oh, I'm projecting this on you. Two things. I talked about this in my Patreon. I did a whole couple of videos on this, talks. We interact in this world by both projection and perception. You need projection to get motivated. So if I'm listening to somebody, I project, oh, I'm going to get this or learn this. Or you're traveling. I'll use that example. You project, oh, I'm going to go here. It's going to be a great experience. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. The problem is, the issue, the toxicity comes in is when our projection, because it never will be, and I will say never, that it never will be exactly what we want. It could be more, but it could be approximation. It's just like in a relationship, the projection of, oh, oh my God, he bought me this, he did this. Oh, she did this. Oh my God, it's so amazing. And then 6-8 months into the relationship, oh, I thought you liked this. Well, I didn't really like sitting home and watching a bunch of sports on TV, but I did it for a while because I care about you. I love you. But now I want to be me. I don't like doing that. I like reading. I like going for a run in the morning. I don't want to sleep in till 9 or 10. I like to get up at 5. Well, you did that for when we were first dating. When we were first dating, you laid in bed and we had croissants and cappuccinos in bed. Yeah, I know. I did that. But that's not really me. But I did it for a while because we were getting to know each other. So what do? Oh, they lied to me. Oh my God. Everybody, oh God, they lied to me. I can't handle it. That in relationships calls the disappointment phase. The next phase that comes in is negotiation. You have to negotiating differences. Then the real relation comes in, the unity. When we can accept other people for how they are, and you make some negotiations, some compromises here and there, but you accept, you realize, oh, we were in a phase, the projection phase. It's also known as the romantic phase. Well, the same thing happens in life, in jobs, and government. It happens in all systems. The mask begins to fall. What our real empowerment comes in, and where we really start trusting our intuition through connecting into our higher self and really connecting into that frequency of the higher self and soul, is when we can move into perception, the ability to perceive what is there, the ability to see if somebody, and even ask, hey, I kind of think you don't want to sleep in all the time and have croissants and tea or hang out, or watch late night movies. Are you just doing that for me in the relationship? Well, yeah, okay, that's fine. You don't have to. What if we said that, gang? What if we said that? Well, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be my perfect image of what I want or what I thought. You see, woke doesn't allow for that, because awakening is an unfolding. When we connect in through the vibrational frequency of our higher self, and we're connecting into the soul through that, we're unfolding. We're in a becoming. We're not static anymore. We're not a teacher, a mother, a father, a student. We're not. That's our identity. Automated. I'm a this. I'm gay. I'm straight. I'm up. I'm down. I'm everything. Because see, on the egocentric level, coming from wounding, everything is labeled. In the realm of spirit, if you're becoming, you're unfolding, and you are how you are. You express how you are by how you are. Do you get what I'm saying? You express how you are by how you are. And it's evident, self-evident. It's evident how you are. When I was in that world of modeling and acting and other things that I've done in life, whether teaching, people always knew how I was. Now, they may not have been able to totally articulate it. A lot of times people would tell me, I knew you were a little different, Michele. I knew you weren't like the other models. Something, I don't know, you had some depth or something was going on. Oh, you're spiritual, Michele. Oh, you're spiritual. Oh, that makes sense. So we're always picking up from each other subconsciously how we are. And if you're really perceiving, if you're out of the projection of things most of the time, you're getting the message consciously, subconsciously, intuitively. You're feeling the vibe of how people are. But when we over-identify with the identity, the metaphor could be you go to sleep. You're sleepwalking. And you could be directed to the left or the right or up or down or whatever it is. You can be fooled because you're not really perceiving. You're not seeing. You've got so much projection on of what it is and what it isn't, what it shouldn't be, that you're not perceiving from your soul. So I found that really interesting, this whole narrative around the woke. And I thought, okay, here it is. Here's the opposition. Here's the polarity. But you notice we did not have it until it hit the mainstream world, the mainstream consciousness. That's where the extremes of polarity usually play out. Now, in societal form. Now, yes, we can have people polarized that are more fringe. But the higher vibrational frequency of something is not going to be polarized, because you need that electrical magnetic charge. You need that negative pole and the positive pole, like on the battery, to make the spark, to make the engine go, right? You don't get that by being stuck in one side of that pole. You don't get the juice with that. The true juice, the spiritual juice, the soul juice. You don't get that unless you're balanced. And so a lot of this healing, a lot of it's coming up from this fall from grace, however you want to look at it, is breaking up systems where there's been mismanagement. Now, let's talk about something really quickly here, because I mentioned this a long time ago on my podcast. Some of you might have heard of it, that are regular, high vibers here. When I connected to the spiritual hierarchy and asked them what's happening, and again, there's videos on this on Patreon and some of them on YouTube. How did this start? Well, innocuous enough. And if you recall, people have certain inclinations on a soul level, what we're drawn to. But a lot of this happened because of not being responsible. Because sometimes when people get power, or a lot of power, too much power, they not in the beginning. In the beginning, people are pretty magnanimous. Even the worst of the worst could be a little, oh, I'll help you, I'll do this too, and oh, you're doing that for me, I'll do that. But the artists, the light workers, the seers, checking out from the system. You have to have that system that keeps things organized. You could call it political, whether local, environmental. You have to have those systems. That's Capricorn energy, right? If we're looking at it through astrology, you have to have those systems in place. Monetary system. What's the exchange going to be? Is it going to be cowrie shell? Is it going to be crystals? Back in the day, okay, you give me 30 pieces of gold, I do this for you. Oh, I paint this beautiful picture. And of course, the artists and the healers, oh, I'm just painting and I get the gold, the silver. Oh, this is wonderful. They're sponsoring me. Okay. Not keeping abreast, which is starting to happen now. The system being disrupted. Hey, people, this is where your dollars are going, your yen. This is where your dólares are going. Your pesos are going. Your pounds are going. Your francs are going. Hey, this is what's happening. Pluto and Aquarius, co-ruled by Saturn and Uranus, brings not just disruption and change, but responsibility, self-responsibility, accountability. I'm not saying everybody has to be an accountant. I'm not the best at that, but you have to have a step in that direction to be informed. This is why the way that the media is set up now with the citizen journalists and stuff, it's not going to be, you're not going to be able to just say, oh, I heard it on this newscast, it must be true because they look like me or they sound like me, whatever it is, or they're the same political party as me. You're going to have to do your deep dives. Now, deep dives, I love doing that because I like to see my confirmations of my predictions or visions that I receive or information I receive from the spiritual hierarchy. So I like that. Probably also because I've got Scorpio in my chart and Pluto conjunct my sun. So I like the deep dives. Oh, Sunray, beautiful. When you do the deep dives, when you start looking at the world differently and you go, let me see the confirmations, God, universe, let me see the confirmations. Let me see how it's coming together. Let me see the levels of awakening. Let me not just see the separation or the fear, but let me see the unity. Let me see the messaging of where we're going. Once you start looking that way more, yeah, it's fear, uncertainty, up and down. Yeah, all of that happens. However, you start being this participant and you start deciding, where am I going to put my energy, my focus? Am I a creator? Am I a builder? I'm going to do that despite what's going down, because you understand there has to be disruption. There has to be breakdown. There has to be destruction. There has to be a breakdown. And when there is that destruction and that breakdown, that's when new systems can come in place. But that doesn't happen in a linear fashion. The same time that things are being dissolved, broken down, disrupted, there is a building and a coming together. So it's obviously part of the ego mind focuses more on the destruction. Oh, our guest is coming in. Okay. It's focusing more on the destruction because that's what we see. That triggers the ego. That triggers our, limbic system, or the medulla oblongata, right? The instinct, the reptilian part of the brain as fear. But don't dwell there. Don't park there. Be aware of what is being changed or disrupted or dismantled, because it's a really, really healthy thing. And then say, oh, maybe you can put a system in there. whether individually or collectively. All right, gang, any questions? You can pop on. What month this year will be the loudest, Sunray? I feel like the loudest is now, in a quiet way. I feel people are starting to make better decisions and choices through their actions. They're deciding what they want. Not everyone. Some people are freaking out because things are dissolving and destruction, but that's exactly what we needed. And those of you, again, that listen to the visions, the prediction, all of that, they kept saying there's going to be disruption, there's going to dismantle, the systems are breaking down. Whatever is happening right now in the world is not coming out of the blue, like we woke up one morning. I don't care if it's been a psychic channel like me, astrologer, accountants, government officials, and people in the educational field. Every field in the world has been saying this. And now that it's happening, the ego portion of the mind, of the brain, the egoic function, how it connects in emotionally, instinctually, and through pattern responses, reactions, is unnerved. So you have to take care of that part that's unnerved right now and that's feeling fear, but you have to go back and go, this needs to happen. If I'm going to get rid of clothes in my closet, I have to clean out my closet. It's going to be messy for a while. I have to dismantle that. I have to disrupt that order in my closet. So if you start thinking that way, you're going to connect into the creative principle, which is your soul. And that's what we're meant to be doing right now. It's connecting into that creative principle in our own way, individually and collectively, however you're called. All right, gang. Sunray, good to see you. Good to see everyone in the chat. Thanks for being here. And those of you that'll be listening later, hello, welcome, lots of love and light. And please, as always, email me your questions, topic suggestions, what you want to bring to the conversation, what you're seeing. I want you to be a part of this conversation because it has been a conversation. We've been doing this for a while, gang. A lot of us, you've been here since the beginning of Awakenings. We're just on a different platform now, but we're doing the same thing, but in different ways. All right, we have Martha Blessing with us. She is in the house here. And her book, Healed and Unlimited, The Secret to Breaking Free from Chronic Illness. Boy, that ties in. There's another biggie when we're talking about healthcare, health field, medicine. Hey, Martha, welcome.
Hi, Michelle. Can you hear me?
I can perfectly. Very, very well. Yeah. Wow. Well, we've got a lot of, let's dive in. Share a little bit about your background, what you'd like to share. And then I'd love to dive into what you've been doing and your recent book as well.
Yeah. Thank you. I loved exactly what you were saying about it being absolutely the loudest in a quiet way. We are we are just at such a great time. And my journey, I started in Western medicine, mainstream medicine as a registered nurse. At one point, I was unable to walk. I was living in a wheelchair. They told me I'd never walk again.
Oh my God.
And I just had this, at the time, I know now it was mystical, but at the time, I honestly thought I was having side effects from too much codeine. And I sit in the doctor's office, and this vision happened, and the voice came and it said, "Don't take this. You don't have to take this." And I truly did not know what that meant at the time. Since then, fast forward 30 years, I've been working in the metaphysical and spiritual realm for years. I'm
Love it. Yes,
third generation.
System buster here coming. Okay, so because I'm seeing, and I've got quite a few clients, quite a lot actually, that are in the medical field, either working still and bringing something new in, or have left, but they have these stories of what they went through, or what they saw, or what they were told to do.
Yeah. Well,
One
that
one
was the beginning. The real, I would say that was probably the awakening, the first awakening, right?
yeah.
Um,
Was what you were going through. What you're
correct,
saying?
correct.
Okay.
So the funny part is that, I'm third generation, but it kind of skipped a generation and nobody was talking about it. Mediumship and psychic abilities and things like that. But it was very clear that my gifts were going to move through to the realm of healing, because that's the direction that it's taken.
Right. So
What
you had that
happened?
already. You had that already. You had that a bit. See, which I find, and I always share this with people: spirit, God, however you want to, whatever you want to call, I call God, but
Yeah,
whatever, or your path is, you're going to have that sphere of experience, and then have that sphere of influence. You're going to be in a certain field and have that resonance to then work within that field, or people from that field, or have knowledge from that field. So I find that so fascinating, because even if you have the intuition or the psychic ability, you also have this training and experience, which makes a wonderful bridge or hybrid
yeah,
up to
yeah.
the medical. Mhm.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. It truly is, because again, when this was first happening, nobody in my immediate family was talking about the fact that I had a cousin. My father's cousin was a chiropractor in the early 1900s,
Oh,
which
wow.
was like being a witch doctor, right? So I knew nothing about
Yeah.
stuff. And then later, I owned a brick and mortar. It was called New World Gifts, Books and Gifts for Conscious Living. I had a wellness center and the
Oh,
book and gift shop. And, the development of allowing the guides to come in, allowing my ancestors to come in and be the vessels and the vehicles for that. And so,
wow.
of
Now
course,
let me ask you, Martha, did you when you were in the nursing field, did you have intuition, psychic ability? Was it also spirituality or anything of the occult, esoteric, etc., etc.? Were you interested in any of that at all? And did you have any experiences with that?
I did. So, the truth be told, my beloved grandmother Flossie, who lived at Lilydale and lived in that spiritualist community, she
Ah,
she passed when I was 5 and started communicating to me when I was 6. But mind you, this was all when there was no internet. There was
yeah.
no, like this
That's
stuff
what
was
happened
not
with me too. I
happening.
know. People don't remember. It was like behind the scenes,
It was
It's
in the basement. You're
yeah,
darn right it was.
literally to meet, or a small little notice board with healing,
Yeah. So
study this. Yeah.
when I was a nurse, when I get into the hospital, what happened is, I would get messages. I only stayed in the hospital environment for the least amount of time I possibly could, because I would walk down the hall and I would get the mental, emotional, spiritual causes of the physical illnesses of the people in the beds.
Mm.
Right. So I was constantly
Mm-hmm.
getting chatter, constantly getting downloads, and I looked like a deer in the headlights. Like I was trying to be a nurse and do
I
IV, things like that.
I've talked to other nurses, like when I've done mediumship work and talked to them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we see it, see the person leaving, the energy. They're just walking the halls. They're like, I've always wondered if if you are that aware, how do you deal with that constantly, or seeing the illness, or knowing what's coming up, or seeing what's causing it? Did you have what did you how did you have a place to put that, or did you have a reference point, or was it ever overwhelming?
It was overwhelming. It was because I really hadn't accepted it yet. Like I really hadn't
Ah.
accepted that that was my path.
Mhm.
My awakening around that incident in the neurologist's office, where I started having these mystical experiences, came around and during that same time. So it was all opening up. And again, when you're in the medical field, the last thing you do is publicly announce to
Oh yeah,
someone that you
exactly.
hear voices.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that's true. Very
I
true.
know where that's going to take me.
Yeah.
So I just kept it to myself. I just kept it to myself, and so I worked. I went up to Crepello Center in Massachusetts, and it was the first time that I had any kind of a healing session. And because I lived in 10 years of daily chronic pain,
Mm,
and all of a sudden I was there and I had this experience of, they called it like body wave work, something like that. And
mhm.
I thought to myself, what just happened? Like, what did she
Mm.
do to me? Like, what just happened? People didn't really know about Reiki even then,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And so, but it was the first time I had no pain, and I didn't take any pain meds for like 3 days. And again, source God just said to me, like, pay attention.
Mhm.
And that was
Mhm.
it. From then on, I became a certified practitioner in healing touch. And it just one thing led to another, to another, to another. And then fast forward, 2015, it's been 10 years now, I got diagnosed with this rare incurable cancer that 1 in 1 million people get. And there was no protocol, no cure, whatever. And I got a message and I knew exactly where to focus. And I literally sat in stillness and did mantras and when I say mantras, I mean true like seed sounds, not
Yeah.
affirmation,
Yeah.
repeating type thing.
Seed sounds are
And
powerful. I love seed mantra.
yeah, yeah.
Chanting.
And so I started to channel these grids of light, these patterns of light, and I had no idea what they were or what they were for. And it took me all this time to really work with them and understand and realize what was going on. But anyway, the cancer was gone 2 months. They went to cut my head open and it was gone. They couldn't find it. And that was my initiation into light code.
Okay. Love it. Love it. Love it. A lot more coming through these days with the codes, with the frequent light codes and frequency codes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's basically been it. And are you familiar with Dolores Cannon?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So Dolores Cannon, she talked about the three waves of volunteers, and the first wave
Hmm.
and the second wave.
Hmm.
And when I opened up to that and realized, oh, I was part of that first wave, right? I was part of that first wave, 1948 to maybe early to mid 60s.
Hmm.
The messages that I've got from the Arcturians and the light codes that I work with now was that we got so bogged down in the pain body and the indoctrination and the core wound and like the mainstream, even therapy. Like people come to me now and they're like, oh my God, I sat in therapy for so long, like, and it didn't change anything.
Hmm.
Because it's these laws of polarity that you were talking about, right? They're focusing on what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong.
Hmm.
And they don't know, like, we didn't know there was a parallel world outside of this
Hmm.
where we're
Yeah.
already healthy, where this doesn't exist. So now they've basically said, the first wave, they let us run amok for as long as we could, but that we've gotten too heavy into the religion, the indoctrination, the medicine, the core wound, and
Well, yeah. And think about it too, Martha. Not, and that's one of the things kind of similar um, that my guides had said, the spiritual hierarchy was that not being interested in other things and the hiding, like you said, whether spiritual groups, therapy, it's like, I want to get out of this world. I don't care. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to be a part of that. This kind of disenchantment. Like the most important thing is just focusing on the healing, instead
yeah,
of the totality of life. Not, and if you really look at it, it's not being responsible for being here. in your fullness. You know, you're focusing so much on the ego or what's happening with the transitory aspect of the ego, which I get, because the emotions, which people, you know, have to understand, the emotional body is the carrier wave. You have to understand the emotions, the energy in motion, passion, purpose, inspiration, how you use our energy. And that is the one way that most people got control and still do, by ads. It's all emotional manipulation, the stock market. But once you
Mhm.
kind of connect into your energy and motion, you understand, as a vibratory being, your frequency, your tone, your tune, you're attuned to the frequency of you, your soul, your higher self. You don't get pulled off. But yeah, that's been the big caper, all this stuff, the emotional pulling, which of course we came here to experience. My understanding and my experience from having other planetary experiences and dimensional aspects, this is the only place we have these extremes, this emotion, this whole idea of, you know, soap operas and all of that. But the very thing that we came here to kind of play around in, we really didn't take ownership of. It became something bad. Even in the earlier religions, it was always get out of the body, out of the emotions. You know, escape. You know, transcend the earth. You're here because of a mistake. You know, you were thrown here on earth. And so that's the very thing that we haven't had command of, is a very much our energy, our frequency. So I
Right.
right,
Right.
which
Well, and you know, again, so, and like how my gifts played out was being able to go into the subconscious telepathically. And, you know, first it was like just kind of medical mediumship, where I get a message, but now they've just led me quicker telepathically into that subconscious, where why are they agreeing to hold on to this?
Mhm.
Why are,
Yeah, so I
you know,
wanted to ask you,
why
because
are
I
they?
love this. I love having conversations with people coming on different. But I wanted to go back to something as I was talking about frequency. What do you see in frequency or energy pattern or frequency, when there is chronic illness? You talked about, you touched on Reiki and Touch for Health. I know that technique
Yeah,
also.
so
You
it's interesting.
yeah.
Um, just had this conversation with a client today, right? She wants to prevent a recurrence of cancer. And so she was asking me these questions, and there's a significant difference between a medical intuitive who goes in and looks for patterns and looks for things to kind of tell somebody where there's an imbalance, you know, in frequency and energy. With the light codes and the grids that I work with, they're very specific. And so even though I can see things energetically, I don't focus on that, because yourself as a healthy, healed person without an illness or symptoms or disease already exists. One of these
Yeah.
holograms that I work with is called the Soul Lotus, right? So it literally sits in the seat of the high heart, and it's a calibrator. Now, what I will see in people who've had any kind of trauma or emotional abuse that they want to check out from and not feel it, they literally will kick that out of their bodies,
Mhm.
right? Because they
But do
don't want to.
you notice anything or feel anything, maybe from your chronic illness you said you had? Did you notice anything, whether emotionally, energetically? I mean,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a big, bold statement, but I believe in this 3D existence. The number one cause of really all symptoms and disease and illness is shame.
wow, that's a
Yeah.
powerful statement.
And you know, maybe I'm biased because I lived with it for a really long time, but
Mhm.
it is so deeply entrenched. That's where the whole, you know, download from source about that, like they let us loose with all of our acupuncture and our Reiki and all of our healing modalities. Why aren't we getting better?
Mhm.
Because people are tending to drop themselves off to be fixed and rescued and saved, but the frequency is only temporary, and they're not getting at that shame core
Yeah.
cause that's stuck in the subconscious. Right? So I go and have that, like, my work is root cause healing. I'll see what that root cause is, and then we know exactly what to do to release it. And at the same time, it's empowering people, right? Because you've got to give them tools of some kind
Right. Exactly.
to not have it come back, to not go back to that frequency. But at the same time, the light codes are coming in. And my understanding so far has been, they've said it doesn't matter. It's not like our old paradigm of healing and lay on the table, get the treatment. Did it work? Right? People are going back into their ego 3D mind. Did it work? And then if they get symptoms come up again, oh, it didn't work. The difference in this next level of activation is that the light codes are it's like a seed being planted. They don't go away. It's not going away. The light codes are being, given to an individual or to all of us, to the collective.
Yeah.
It's
Well, you bring up a good point.
whether or not we're willing to receive that light code. It's there, ready to be, because it is you, right? Like it is who you are.
Well, and what you bring up a good point. I want to go back to is that healing. We look a lot of times. I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of times people look for healing in one specific way. They have an expectation. And healing can happen on so many ways, not just the physical or physicality. You may still have a condition, that's what we call it in hypnotherapy instead of disease, a condition. But your mind, your mental, your state of mind, your vitality, how you feel about yourself, love, something else may shift in your life. Maybe you've been alone for a while and you get partnered. Maybe your spirit, you feel better about yourself. So yeah, there's different ways to heal, right? To bring that O'Halen in, with the old English word for heal, wholeness. So I think sometimes that might, I don't know if you've seen this, but I think sometimes that expectation of what it's going to be, of what it's going to look like. And also, to your point, it's not linear. Then you said it's a seed. So it can sprout or it can happen later, or one part could heal before another part. What would you say to people? What would be a good, let's say, approach for people in healing or embarking on a healing path, or embarking on a healing path?
Well, the word that came in for this year so far was ownership.
Oh, I was talking about that a little bit. Earlier,
Was ownership, and because it, back to this indoctrination and people giving their power away. Like, I won't let people, and I did in my early years doing the work that I did. I will not allow people to put that on me, that I'm going to fix or rescue, right? And so many people, by the time they come to me, they're like, I've tried everything, right? They've tried every modality, and what makes you different from this healer or that healer or whatever. It is about recognizing that you are, no matter what the physical 3D looks like right now, you are a sovereign light being. And accepting ownership of that is the first step. So when people come in there in doubt and they're in fear, and they don't want to commit to doing the sessions or working because they're in so much worry and fear, it's because they've just bought into that. The paradigm, I talk about this a lot, is the 4 levels of consciousness in healing. And that paradigm is that it's something outside of you.
Yeah.
It's not outside of you. Even in the spiritual, where I have a lot of yogi and yogini friends, and Paramahansa Yogananda and all of this, and people who are worshiping saints, and they've got the pictures, and
Oh
like that.
yeah, I know.
That was
Yeah,
that was like, and I've had people. I used to go do home visits for a woman who had advanced MS. And every time I would come to do healing sessions on her, her husband would go and sit, like he held me up to some kind of pedestal, and he would go
yeah,
sit in the other room and try and absorb some of the residual of the energy and the healing and stuff. And I was like, no, it's not about like worshiping that icon.
no,
I don't care what saint or what ascended master, or they were only a representation
yeah.
of
Oh my
who
God,
we,
Martha.
like it's
Exactly.
in us. Don't stare at the
Don't.
picture and worship
Yeah.
them. Find it within
Find
yourself.
it within you. I years and years
Yeah.
ago had this. I did a reading for this guy. He really wanted to be a writer, and I'm just saying this because Paramahansa, which I love some of their writings, and I've studied in India, But again, I agree. You got to do your own thing. It's not that person's embodying something, an inspiration, or. Anyway, he wanted to be a writer, and I thought, I said you could be a writer. I guess I picked up I wanted to write or whatever it was. And he said, "Oh no, I'm waiting. I'm still waiting for my sign from Master." And I said, "What?" He said, "If Paramahansa, Martha Yogananda." He said, "I'm waiting for they call him Master, Paramahansa Yogananda
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
give me a sign." And I said, "Well, here's your sign. Start writing." I go, Martha, he had been waiting for years. He said, "I know if it's meant to be, he's going to put it in my path." I was like, I go,
Yeah.
"You should just get the book out, the notebook, and start writing." Oh my God.
Yeah.
But to your point, I think that's disrupting now. What do you think? I feel like in this new paradigm, this new earth, that ownership, that self accountability, because we're moving into that creator space, and as you're saying, the sovereign, to like, hey, there is this whole perfect and complete blueprint of me. Let me tap into that. Let me poke around. Let me do this.
Yeah. And
Do you
that
see a
is,
shift? Do you feel and see a shift?
yes and no. There is still I talk to many, many people every day
Okay.
that are still kind of caught up in some of the woo woo
Mm-hmm.
of, you know, I never, and you could say maybe it was because it was, I was already halfway there with my lineage, with my ancestors. However, I had to agree to all of it. I could have turned it all off,
Mm-hmm.
and said, no, I'm not going to do this. But I never took an intuitive development class, none of that. All I've ever done is just sit in my stillness and connected to all of these pieces and places inside of me. And I think the danger that we've come through is, again, we can have too many of these big name icons out there that people worship. I
Yep.
won't name names, but
No.
I get a lot of people and they go, "Oh, I worked with so and so, who's really big name," and they're not better. And what they're doing is they're still thinking that this, third eye, spiritual crown, nirvana stuff, these people have like literally shot their energy out of their bodies. They don't know what it's like to actually experience themselves as that, like
Mm-hmm.
as the light.
Mm-hmm.
They need to get back in their bodies.
Get in the body. Well, and the big thing, that, and I feel like this is why somatic practices, somatic psychology has come back. Because in the 90s, no one wanted to hear about that. And no one wanted to hear about the soul either. I think this whole thing, because the new emerging consciousness, it has to be embodied. This time we have to do it in the body. It's not. My thought too on
Correct,
this,
correct,
right?
correct. Because
Having
yeah,
studied a lot of
and
different religions, most religions, and they have good things about them as well. It was always about getting out, checking out. Out, the body's bad, like you said, the shame. Get out of the body. Get on another dimension. You'll leave the body. It's better. Transcend the body. Everything out, out, out of the body. And now this part of the awakening is saying, no, you got to. It's got to. It is, to your point though. It is in the body. It's us. It's the body and beyond the
yeah,
body. But we have
your
to embody it.
subconscious. is not out there. Nothing is out there. It's all in your physical body, tangibly, right? And people don't want to, the reason why they're checking out is because they don't want to feel the pain, but you can't feel the joy either. You can't, it's again, back to frequency. If you're not going to allow yourself to feel the frequency, right? Like you can't, and, I call it the spiritual amnesia, right? Like that's what we're healing. And it is changing because I've gotten very, very, very potent, strong messages now on how I'm to move the work forward, like how I'm to do the light codes, that it is, they're saying, please just do this work. Please just put these codes in, like, trust us, right? That was my issue. Like, trust this and please, because they are at such a higher level of love
Goes back to the love, doesn't it?
that like, I used to say to people, they're like, okay, now how long do I have to, I channeled from my grandmother this love meditation, and it was what first moved the energy and removed like fibromyalgia from my body, right? And people would say to me, now how long do I need to do this for? I'm like, dude, this is about you feeling love in your body and experiencing yourself as the purest, deepest love you could ever do in the 3D. And you're asking me a limitation question on when you can stop doing this. Right? But that's not filling a bill. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's the indoctrination.
Yeah. Like it's this,
That's
like the
old
finite
paradigm and belief that you only have to do something for X amount of time and then it'll all be better and go away.
Right. That's
No,
true.
healing is about the ownership to me, in my belief, the ownership of stepping into a portal that gives you a new reality. It's not about how long do I tend to what's going on over here in this reality. It's how do I accept the ownership that I am allowed and meant to go to this other portal in reality where I receive all that I truly am, where I let go of that spiritual amnesia and I function, on a higher level.
Yeah. I love that. Stepping into the ownership. But it is you own it. It's not coming from outside you. I think it's so powerful.
Yeah. Like this is, oh, wait, this is so, it shifts, right? From the, client said this to me today. She said, I was listening to your 4 levels of consciousness in healing. And she goes, as I listened, it was like, yeah, I know. And then she said today, but I didn't know because I haven't embodied it yet.
Yeah, the embodiment.
And that's what we keep using these words, but they're catchphrases, right? Like embodiment. Oh, embody. I want to embody.
Yeah.
What does that word mean? It's in body. Like you said, it's not out there.
Yeah.
In
I think
body.
too, because people get things intellectually before they get it in the emotional, before they embody it, before it sinks in and then becomes it's so long. And we're so in this heady, especially now with this whole woke, everything is so heady. Everything is the soundbite. I was thinking that the other day. I thought, God, everything is astrologically. I have Uranus conjunct Leo, and Mercury is in Leo. How I think that's already big, and now Uranus there, and I'm like, everyone's got a soundbite, and they only know sound bites, catchy, like embodiment. Embodying this frequency. It's like, okay, like to your point, that friend or that client of yours. What does that mean? They have to sit with it and let it come in. And I just feel that's going to be a next really crucial next step is people are going to kind of the next awake snap and go, oh my God, I'm not doing this. I guess I have to slow down and connect in, as always.
And the allowing. It's truly in the allowing.
I like one of the things that you.
But it's scary. It's scary to people. This has been my experience, right?
Mhm.
It's scary. What part of what works when I do, work with clients, going into being able to go into the subconscious, right? So, example, like a gentleman, he's getting ready to retire. So he's like 55, 65. He's had digestive issues. He said pretty much his whole life. Okay. So I know this as soon as he engages with me, and I have permission, spirit starts talking and telling me and downloading. And the first thing they showed me was this little boy standing there crying, going, I was just a boy. But I was just a boy. And then they'll start to deliver the information of it was too much pressure on me. It was too much. And then it just goes down sort of like a rabbit hole, right? It's just download, download, download. They show me the grief in his heart. They show me where he's holding that. And because there's such a wall of energy there, and then the solar plexus is about the self-worth and self-esteem. He can't let go of the grief and the patterns of having to prove himself from that core wound, right? From that pattern when the conscious mind, the conscious mind is not developed from like in utero to 9 years old. So he couldn't reject anything.
Yeah.
And he's
Absorb it all.
taking on the pattern of survival.
Yeah. And
How
the
do I get
patterning
these?
of the people around him. That's the thing.
Correct.
Too,
But
right?
the patterning of the people around him, but he takes it on because he wants the three basic core: self-love, self-esteem, safety, security. What do I have to do and agree to? Where do I have to sell myself out in order to get these crazy people to love me and take care of my needs? And that's where that first core wound and agreement happens. And so fast forward, 50 some years, that's why it's the digestive issue. That's why it's the solar plexus. So his work is about opening and allowing that. And then we get on the phone or on Zoom, and he's saying, yeah, I said, so you had to pitch hit for somebody in your family. How you had to smooth over the edges, and it was too much. And like, tell me what that was. He goes, yeah, it was my dad. Right. So that is all that early stuff that happens that's stored in the subconscious. The second that we know and we identify that, you just reprogram it in the subconscious while you're letting the light codes come in, and boom, it's gone. Symptoms are gone.
Yeah.
It's
a shift. We have that with
but
I want to ask you a question. Yeah, it's scary. Well, one time someone told me, I'm afraid that if I open up to feel, it's not going to go away. That feeling of like it's gonna whatever it is gonna stay, and I'm not gonna feel happy again.
Yeah, they feel like they have to go back through it to clear it. That's old. That is so old. That's old paradigm.
That more what I'm saying is that they feel like, okay, if I let these feelings out, like a rabbit, it's gonna take over, which of
Be
course it
consumed
doesn't.
by it.
Get consumed.
You mean if I let the sadness or the grief?
Yes. I did have a question.
But guess what? But guess what? Here's the kicker. It's already consumed them. It's already consumed unconsciously. It's taken over their life. It's taken over their body, their cells, and their cellular memory, and it's created illness. So it's already taken them over. They just don't see that that's what's happened.
Good point. Do you have a question? Because you, on your write-up, you mentioned, and I agree that the conversation is timely and vital. I'm so glad we're having it. I have noticed a lot more, and I even had a little tiny bout with it a few months ago. I got a tiny bout and nothing. I don't even know what it was, but I'm seeing and hearing from people a lot with the gut. And you're seeing a lot, ads and things, the gut health, gut this. In fact, we had two authors on the podcast that had, and I don't remember what it's called, the term, because I even talked to a friend of mine who's a great healer and works with foods and puts programs together for people, and she knew of it. This arena or area of psychiatry where they're healing, and it was called psychiatric something that has to do with the gut, and it has some acronym that I cannot remember. But they're finding, like, through the gut, things like depression, even certain mental imbalances or illnesses, however you want to look at it, certain disorders, handling through the gut.
Yeah.
What do you think what do you see, or do you have any thought about, or an opinion of, all of a sudden, all of the last few years, and especially this last year, there's just been so much about the gut and gut health. I mean, I know it kind of started with probiotics and then prebiotics. That touched on it. Now there just seems to be this. So many people having gut issues.
Yeah, here's the thing. It's of course multi-layered, multi-dimensional. But number one, and I worked as a clinical Ayurvedic practitioner for 15 years as well, right? So the whole energetic principles and properties of food and all those things, you got to think about this, right? With everything that you said, with everything that we have available to us, why aren't people healing? We got all this stuff available to us, heal the gut. Why is it such a problem? Well, number one, because it's always mental, emotional, and spiritual, right? And that's exactly what this gentleman said to me. He goes, "Oh, I'm doing, superfoods now and blah, blah, blah." Like, I hear that every day, all day long. Yeah. Oh my God. And that and Lyme disease, right? And stuff. So here's the thing. Digestion is a metaphor for life, number one. Okay. You take in through your mouth. This is ideas, people, situations, everything. You take it in, you chew it up, you break it down, you swallow it. It goes down through absorption and assimilation. You take what you need, you leave the rest, and it comes out, you get rid of the waste. So where in that process, right, energetically, like reflux, what's too much to what's too much to, or liver is, burning. I worked with a gentleman who they wanted to take his colon out and he wasn't even diagnosed with cancer, right? Because of his liver. And it's the second that he connected with me, I was like, dude, your father's living in your liver, And so when I get on with him, I said, "Tell me about your dad." He goes, "Oh, well, he's pretty much a narcissist, So there's
unfortunately, that people that live a lot with that personality, somebody that has that or border, they tend to have a lot of stomach issues, digestive issues, fibromyalgia, Epstein-Barr.
I had that. Here's the thing. I had fibromyalgia. That was like my first getting out of that. But here's the thing. Guess where the seat of shame is stored in our body?
Where?
Solar plexus.
The solar plexus.
Solar plexus. Yeah. That's why if I go in and telepathically, their subconscious will tell me exactly what's going on there, what's stored in the subconscious and why, then that's a direct path out of the shame that they've been in. And here's one other thing. There is always, 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 always guilt and shame. There is a secret and a lie that they have agreed to keep somewhere in there. Because if you just have to ask yourself, why on earth, when we have every kind of superfood, every kind of diet, every kind of this, every kind of that, why aren't we getting better? It's not about the functional medicine and the supplements and the testing and they're still not better. I can't tell you how many people I get come to me with that kind of stuff. They're at their wit's end and they don't want to take whatever the, autoimmune, the biologic medication is or whatever, and all the side effects and, so it's about the releasing at the same time and letting go of all of this. This is where, the guides I channel Bukra, they said, we let you guys run wild. into all of this, but now they're integrating and taking, not taking over, but they're stepping in
Mm,
because we were not hitting the tipping point that we were supposed to hit.
yeah. No, I know.
Like,
My guide said the same thing. We're behind
yeah,
schedule. That's a lot of,
yeah,
that's even what
yeah.
Trump getting in, the disruption, which
The
it,
the medication, the ads on TV for all the medications, and oh my God, like don't
oh
even
yeah,
get
I
me
know.
started on, like the Ozempic
I
and the
just
GLP.
cancel. I mean, there's so many, even on YouTube. I'll look, and I'm like, this is like constant subconsciously bombardment, and it also creates anybody that has any little pain every now and then or little something, the body does something. It's right away to the doctor. I might have this. Or I should get this medication. Um, I also feel, Martha, that finally connecting in, and which is through the solar plexus, that the emotional body being able to connect back into, like you said earlier, the wounding. We really haven't really on a mass scale connected into that, in that accountability or sovereignty or ownership of our own energy, our emotions. Um,
Correct.
so I feel, yeah. So I think you see a
That's going
lot
to
of that.
change. I think it's going to change, and I think, like you said, like the loudest, but in a quiet way,
Yeah.
because a lot of the energy that I've put into the work that I do, like they're very clearly kind of shouting at me saying, you need to be in an arena where there's 200, 300, 400 people where you're just activating the codes for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, at this
And
point, we
so
have
if
to
they're
do a lot more. We have
me
to do a
that,
lot more.
I'm not the only one that's probably getting that message. I can be
No, and I
pretty sure.
think, no, because I've gotten that as well. To just give them, through visuals, through the energetics of it, the key codes that I work with. I mean, because at this point, it's almost like there needs to be a shot, of this
Yes.
energy and frequency, because people get just too wrapped in, too tied in. I saw the other day, and of course, part of me also is being a therapist. I'm like, oh my God, they're so in their inner child. They had this. I was on YouTube channel switching or whatever you want to call it, scrolling, I guess. And I think it was a confirmation hearing or something. But everybody was yelling, and the one woman, I can't think of her name, but anyway, I just looked and I went, oh my God, they're all so triggered, and in their inner child, the wounding was just
Yeah. Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And and that's why I think the silent revolution is we're just moving away from, we're going to another fairground, another dimension, another really a different frequency. And I think there does come this kind of quiet calm of, not for me. It's like being at the cocktail party, or the hors d'oeuvres are going around, and you see something you don't like, you just kind of gently put your hand up to the wait staff. No, thank you. I'm not having that. I think so many of us, Martha, are putting our hand up and just, thank you, politely just.
Yeah. I can't engage in
No,
any of it. I really
exactly.
can't.
Cannot
I can't.
engage in it.
I literally on all my socials, I just snoozed everybody and everything that
Yes.
had anything to do with any kind of political, you know.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, sometimes the phone or the mic is going out. Well, when I look, I see the signs of the awakening. I am seeing higher consciousness, God consciousness, all that coming through. And you can see beyond all that, because I look at that and go, okay, those are the wounded kids. It's got to play out. But the bigger movement that's happening is quite astounding. Quite astounding.
Yeah. I think, as stewards of this new earth, uh, we have to, again, it sounds so corny, but we do have to hold our light. Like we have to be that soul with stamina that doesn't get distracted. You know, it's
That's
so
right.
funny. It's so funny. Like, I have a lot of people in my family, like, I'm definitely the black sheep. They don't understand any of, you know, who I am or what I do. But my mom used to say to me, she used to have the news on like 24/7, you know, CNN or MSN, whatever, you know. And she used to say, "Don't you want to know what's going on in the world?" And I just look at her and be like, "No, I don't." Because it doesn't have, I mean, I can't get, you know, we know the quantum field, right? When we give our attention to something, we solidify it. When we withdraw our attention, we collapse the wave. We collapse that wave. So why would I want to give my energy to the things that I don't want to experience?
Yeah. Well, and one thing though, we all are interconnected, so we have aspects of that, and that's why when people do their individual, real healing, emotional repatterning, inner work, it does radiate out, because what's being picked up is what's within the subconscious, you know, and the collective unconscious.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they need to be aware of.
The more
Martha,
that we keep our energy and our attention focused on what, like, to me, the light and the truth, I need to go out in the world that's apparently falling apart, and just be that. And,
yes, it's the
you know,
you just said the key word.
again, it's corny, but it's like, you know, walk
But you said,
softly and carry.
but you said the key word being that, because part of the reason we've got in this pickle on the earth plane, and I talked about at the beginning of the podcast, is that, or live, is that the non accountability and checking out, like only wanting to be the light, only wanting to be around those kind of people, whatever we term those people are, you know. And so there hasn't been a lot of awareness on what is really going on, because people are isolating, segregating, checking out, because they only want to be around the light, you know. And so I think the next step is to not discern between the light and the dark, because out of the dark comes the light, and without the dark there is no light, you know. It's when we get into that quantum field of oneness. We have someone that wants to say, Black Dragon, did you have a question? Or Sam, who's this? Okay, you have a question. It just disappeared. And I want to touch on your book here before we close. Hi, welcome,
Hello.
Sam. You're on air.
Yeah, I'm good.
You're
Thank you. How
live
about
with
you?
Martha. Yeah.
Just I'm
Do you have a
listening. Your
question?
podcast is going very well. But I'm a student. Just I have one. I have want to ask one question. How can I make a weakness in the whole world?
How can you say that again? I didn't quite hear you. How can you what?
Yeah. How can I make a weakness in whole world?
Weakness?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, a little bit, but I can't.
I can understand the
You?
word.
Yeah, there's a word. How can you make what? What was the word? How can you?
Hello.
Yeah, Sam, I can hear you. Sammy.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for indicating me. Just you are listening to me. How
Yes.
can I awakenings in whole world?
Or make peace. I guess I'm missing that. I'm missing that one word in between. How can you rephrase it?
Yeah, I
Hello.
couldn't.
Make peace in the world. How can you? Sammy, go ahead.
Can he type it into the?
Yeah, type it in the chat, Sammy, and then we'll answer it. Okay? Because your line is going out too. Sammy, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah, can you type it in the chat? Because we're not hearing. There's something with the phone or whatever, how you're calling in, or the link, and then we'll.
Okay. Just yeah. Just I disconnect and back to you
Yeah, just
again.
type it in the chat. Okay, Black Dragon is saying it wasn't me. Okay, I see that. It wasn't. Yeah, couldn't hear. I could hear what, but the other words. So yeah, put in the chat and we'll answer it. Okay, Sammy. Okay, I don't know. The phone is going out. Okay.
I think he's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. Sammy, are you there? Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to disconnect it. Yeah. So put it in the call. It can't understand what they're saying to start with. Yeah. So if you put it in the chat, just write it in the chat. Then we'll look at that. So, Martha, let's just touch on, if we can, healed and unlimited, the secret to breaking free from chronic illness. What are you finding that is?
What am I finding that is the secret?
Yeah. Oh, Isabella had a question too. We have a question. You want to, let's take the question and I'll go back to that because I want to end with that. Isabella is asking, do you think, is anxiety caused by trapped emotions?
Yes. So here's what happens with anxiety. That kind of tends to be my wheelhouse. Anxiety happens in 4 different ways or places in the body. When it can happen either in the head, which will be that constant, like, can't shut my brain off, monkey mind, insomnia stuff. In the throat, in the heart center as palpitations, or in the solar plexus in the gut as like that flutter and digestive issues and things like that.
Now, what's in the throat? What happens in the throat?
The throat is literally like the choking off of your truest self and expression.
Right. But what happens when people have anxiety in the throat?
It'll just be like a tightness, like you're choking.
Ah, okay. Wow. Okay.
And so the thing to recognize about any anxiety, and sometimes it will move back and forth, right? So if there's a block in the heart, like if the energy's circling through the heart, through the grief and the shame, it'll just loop. It'll keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It'll go in a circle, right?
Right.
The anxiety is actually a gift. It is a message. It's a gift from your soul and your body of where to put your attention, because the energy is actually trying to get up and get out. It's anxiety is energy moving. It's literally a message and a sign from your soul. And so when you move towards it instead of away from it, which is part of what I teach people to do, it doesn't have to get your attention anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's key to that is us interpreting, and I think, again, a lot of us do, but bringing more awareness about interpreting messages from the body. And it's not to be always squelched, like get rid of that symptom, but what is it saying?
Correct. And this is again goes back to where we got caught up, and they're now intervening, the tipping point, because what we've done is we've just drowned out the messages.
Yeah.
Right.
Whoa.
This is uncomfortable. Give me a pill and a bill, or cut it out. Right. Like, yeah, that makes sense. So I've got this, shame in my gut. And so just, take my colon out. No, it's just going to move somewhere else in the body, because the energy wants your attention. Your soul wants you to move to the light, And of course, this is more. There are some people who will not follow this path and not come with us. People who are starseeds, people who are empaths, healers, all of this stuff, light workers, they too have gotten bogged down in this because it's that feeling of, I'm weird, I don't fit in, again.
Yeah. Well, you still have to experience the conditioning, even if you are and I'll speak for myself, starseed, light worker, empath, all of them, and psychic champ. Doesn't matter. You still have the conditioning. You're still in the container. You're still in the.
Correct.
And the food color, the yellow food color is still rubbing off on you, huh?
You came, like, you're still in the 3D. I had a gal who was like, I don't belong here, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? You're here.
Yeah.
So live this life now because you are here, which means that you are meant to be here, you know, or
But
you
that
wouldn't be.
also, Martha, goes back to your ownership.
Correct.
Sure, there's other places we would want to be or go back to. And usually we all say that when things are difficult, because I've been there. I've said that myself. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to. And having memories of that. But what you said, the ownership, because you're here, we weren't banished here. We chose this on the deepest level of our being. So I think there might probably, in this conversation with you, I'm now thinking probably a lot of healing is going to come even from us taking ownership of being here, of what we've chosen. And without judgment. Even I'm thinking, I've been going through this thing where I'm releasing judgments on past decisions. And I'm like, it's taken a while, but it is very healing and very freeing. I can tell you that much. The shoulders go down, it's just, you feel more relaxed. But I think that's for not just a lot of us. It's like, we have to take ownership of what we did or didn't do and let it go, begin anew, connect into the unfolding, the becoming. But there's been such entrainment of this, like holding on to ideas or perceptions or beliefs or principles or techniques. Everything, this was done back in 1800. We're doing it now. Like nothing. And even in our kind of quote unquote spiritual, or I'm sure you saw it in the medical, even the quote unquote holistic health. You have to be willing to let go and start anew or have a different perception. I'll give you an example. I remember when I first learned a lot about healing, and there was a technique I learned. You had to wash your hands to cut the energy off. You had to wash your hands. And then I realized, oh my God, it's like, well, it's just a frequency. It doesn't matter. It's all there anyway, interconnected. So when you shift a frequency. But there was this whole idea to cut off the energy, to stop the energy, or water, a lot of stuff, ritual. It's like, well, no, I can just be that. I can just shift my awareness and I shift my consciousness. I think that's more, and that sounds like where you're playing in, and that's where we're meant to play in that state. All the other things can be fun too. I mean, I love my crystal. I love things. I love all the accoutrements. But I think it is recognizing it is us, which goes back to what you and I were talking about, the embodying. That it is us and it's in us. It's not outside of.
And it's not, having owned a retail and, shop and crystals and all those things, like people would come in, oh, I'm going to put, a rose quartz in my bra and my heart's going to be open. Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's not how it works.
No, that's just an augment something.
Yeah. Again, something outside you, right?
Exactly. And it's augmenting what's within you, right? That's the other thing I think people have to, hey, Jacqueline, welcome. Great conversation. So just want to touch on your book a little bit. The secret, if you can give us a little hint of breaking free, what you have found, one thing that works from breaking free, and then where people can connect with you, where the book is available. And then we'll scoot off and leave it open for another time.
Yeah. The book is available on my website at marthablessing.com. And the secret, I think the secret is different now than when I wrote that book, probably. But
I love that.
Because it's all about the ownership, right? Like, when I wrote that book, it was to kind of open the different waves that were coming, right? Like to understand and recognize that everything is energy. Like that truly, it sounds so simple and it sounds ridiculous, but it's true of everything, and that we have control of all of it. Like we think we don't have control, but we do. Like this old concept, I remember people like, oh, zip yourself up in white light or pink light, or back in the Doreen Virtue days, right? Oh my God, that used to drive me freaking nuts.
Me too. Everything the white light, zip yours, put it around you, circle the light around you, circle.
Oh, because here's what that did. It created an entire culture in this whole spiritual community of, oh, I just zip myself up and I'm good. No, moment to moment, be in the present here and now, moment to moment, minute to minute, hour to hour, you are processing energy from all different places and you get to choose what you let in, what you don't let in, especially as an empath. Oh, I can't tell, no,
Exactly. Can't
no,
do
no,
anything in the life because of
no,
that.
yeah. So it's just like it comes back to that being in your body and the rooting and the grounding and being a master of your own energy, right? When we say God gave us free will, our free will is to choose, is to use our mind and choose in each moment, like what we want to believe, what we want to experience, and that's all energy.
Yeah.
All of it. All of it.
And that is so powerful because it goes back again to that embodiment and the ownership. And I think that's where we're going. I mean, it even shows in the astrology. It's like no more the checking out or like my teacher says, my guru says that I have to wait for this, I have to wait for that. It is a big paradigm shift. It is really.
Yeah, and it's so disempowering. That is because I had quote readers at my store, but I was in that and I watched somebody do a business reading and tell a person that this wasn't the year for them to grow their business. Like they should wait 2 years. And I was like, oh my God, that's just the most disempowering thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. Focus on
It,
the how can
it
I.
broke my heart. It broke my heart. Yeah.
Wow.
And again, back to the ownership, right? That was giving their power away to someone telling them how it should go. And the only reason they tolerated that was because they were not in ownership of choosing what the desire was that was in their body, that was in their being, that was in their heart, and going, wow, I'm a sovereign person and this is in me for a reason. And the reason it's here means that it's already manifested on the physical plane because it's in me.
Mm-hmm.
It wants to
And
come out of
key,
me.
desire, going back, being okay. This ties back into your shame idea, because desiring something, someone, or something is kind of shamed. In most of our societies here, we got to reclaim our desires. That, hey, I came here to do desire. I want this. I want to create this. I want to live this. So yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's very powerful of reclaiming our desires. And we're all here to do this. Everyone listening now on the live and later, let's make a fun, flexible commitment to connect into our desires and share them and just come on, do it. No matter what's going on externally. I know some people get, well, I better not do anything because what's happening in the world. I'm like, there's always going to be something happening in the world, someplace
That's
in the
exactly
world.
why you should do it, because there's all these things
Yes.
happening.
Yes. You're meant to be a builder, a creator. This is the call to create, to build, to share, to get out there. While things are destructed and dismantling and disruption, you're here to create and build. There's all this space. Use all this beautiful chaotic energy to create. Take a hold of it, which I can tell, Martha, you're definitely doing that. You're like, grabbing, let's go, baby. Let's create. Let's
Yeah,
build.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Love it. Martha, this has been enlightening and kind of fun. Thanks for being here and sharing. Really
Fun. Yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you. So
Yeah,
much
come
fun.
back. Yeah, come back anytime. Oh, you're welcome. See Joy. What a great conversation. Thanks, Michelle
Yeah,
and
thank
Martha.
you
I
so much.
agree. Thanks, Black Dragons. Thanks, See Joy. Thanks, everyone here that just been sharing. And thanks for those that called in. All right, Martha, you take good care.
Thanks, Michelle. You too.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, guys, I love that. All that juicy info. I love that. Who are we talking to? Let's see. Martha Blessing, healed and unlimited. The secret to breaking free from chronic illness. And you could look at that chronic illness also. Thoughts, emotions, thoughts, everything. Yeah, Black Dragon, I thought so. Great guest. Yeah, I really love that, diving into the energetics. So one of the things she sent me, why this conversation is timely and vital. We are at a crossroads, a turning point in human evolution, where we're being called to release the heavy densities of fear, shame, trauma, and social conditioning that have kept us locked in suffering. Absolutely. It's really about the transmutation of this energy. Martha, thank you so much for being here. It's really, yeah, the energy in motion, connecting into our desires, our desire body, using our emotions, energy in motion. The ownership she talked about, I love that as well. That is a sovereign being, that self responsibility. Responsibility doesn't have to be a heavy word. It's like, hey, I'm going to check this out. I'm going to do what's right for me, my energy pattern. Anyway, Glenn, thanks you all for being here. We're here every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific time, going live. You can catch the archives. I'm going to be sending the last week's live to be edited. It'll be on YouTube, Awakenings with Michele Meiche podcast there, Awakening Conversations. You can connect Soul Insights and Tarot also, or Patreon. There's a lot of ways. I think it's in the description of this live. But we'll be back next week. If you want to connect in, call in, you're more than welcome. Share, get in the conversation, join the conversation, and share what your insights are and what you're going through. I love hearing from other people, especially other people. I got to tell you just really quickly, like Martha coming on today, there's such great work. I've been doing this quite a long time, just how I came in, but also the podcasting and being in the media. I was in the regular media for a while. And just as this coming together, being able to see more and more what each person is doing individually and within collective community, it's so inspiring. I see it in my Soul Insights and Tarot channel. The things people are doing, that they're coming up with, that they're creating, that they're innovating, how they're helping or being of service, or how they're just actualizing their gifts, their talent, the DJing or music or art or healing, whatever it is, businesses. It's like, wow, people are really, really talented. It's really, people really got it going on. There's a lot of people out there really amazing, doing just amazing things. So, Black Dragon, radio personality online here. Welcome, Black Dragon. Yeah, so right now is this great gathering of us coming together and sharing our thoughts, our insights, our understanding, our life experience, disagreeing with each other, haggling it out, agreeing, loving, everything. It's just mixing it up. This is the great awakening. This part is the gathering, the converging flow. There's a mashup. So I'm just glad to be a small part of it and to connect with new people, meet new people. It keeps me inspired as well being here.
Awakenings broadcasts every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Pacific Time. Archive shows available on iTunes. For continued awakened conversations and insights, join the Awakenings group on Facebook. And check out Michele's blog at soulplayground.com. And keep awake.